Now we're at 1.7, so you're 311 over
budget.
budget. So that's why that number's so large.
Got it. Thank you. Lot less confusing, not having that extra 3.5 million sitting out there. Do we hear a motion to approve the budget report as presented?
Also move.
We have a second.
I'll second it.
Further discussion? Looks like the only larger item over 5,000 was the Raftellus.
Correct.
Was that last amount that was approved up to 25,000?
I do believe so, yes.
Okay, is that our final payment?
As far as I know.
Okay, so it wasn't 25, it was 17,183. Okay,
As far as I know.
Oh, one other question.
And it does include today?
It does
It's
not.
not, you can't, yeah, because we approved.
okay.
What's historically the board done when we run a deficit? I mean, we've still got several months this fiscal year. Do we take money
We're not running.
Was that
from the other line and cover it, or we just run a deficit for the year?
Run the deficit. If you look at the actual is 1.7 year to date. Budget remaining is 311, 711, right?
Right.
Am I reading that right?
Well, that's what you're over, what you brought in over, correct? So
Okay.
that would technically roll over once it's left over. So yeah, you would take out the deficit too.
So brought in 1.7, spent 1.2 or 1.3, basically, right?
Right?
Yes.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks,
So
Kevin.
we're not there yet, but
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll be.
we're close.
Yeah,
I guess to Brian's point, how close can we get before we start dipping into
The carryover.
the carryover? Is that, since it's not showing on here, how would you show that?
Well, I mean, it depends on how much you spend, that it's not, but you know, that's not a regularly monthly payment, so to say.
Okay.
So like, you know, you're gonna spend your monthly expenses every month. But that just depends on how much more than that you wanna spend until July 1, basically.
And we'll still have 2 quarterly license fee chunks coming in also.
Right.
So if those stay 30% over budget, then
Right.
it shouldn't be a problem.
Then we may be fine.
Yeah.
And that's just some of the monthly that we did from the last board meeting to now.
If you don't mind, go back to the lease agreements again. Rental agreements. Are the rental agreements, the lease agreements the same?
No, so the rental agreements, you're talking about where the 4,200 is and it's over 12,000.
Right.
That is the lease payment for the unstaffed recycling center at Aiken Road. I think it's 1,200 roughly a month that is paid.
Why, I mean, isn't there no other public facility over there that we can use?
That's why we brought that to the board at that time and it was voted on.
Hmm.
There's not a lot of places in Middletown.
Okay, so we didn't budget it right. That's what it sounds, what it looks like.
I think we didn't even have any idea what, they were still looking at that point to see if there was going to be a public site, and I think they didn't know what to even expect on,
Right.
on a rental, so.
Because it used to be at Middletown Fire Department on Morton Lane.
Yeah.
Okay. So that, how long is that lease agreement?
I had to look at that. I do not know.
But I think at least for next year, we'll know for the budget exactly
Right,
how
that's
much.
what I'm
it's
saying.
gonna be.
That's what I was asking. How long is it? It's not a year to year, right? Well, okay.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Can you find that out for us?
Yes,
please?
I can.
All right, thank you. We have a motion to approve the budget report as presented, and we have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The budget report is approved. We have a new 109 board member, Mr. Antonio Brown. You could just stand up, kind of introduce yourself and you know, let us know a little bit about you.
My name is Antonio Brown. I'm currently working now, overseeing the counter data management for the state of Illinois. And living in Louisville, St. Matthews area. And looking forward to meeting you all, working with you all.
Yeah, Antonio.
Welcome.
All right. On to new business, annual report.
Yeah, so we reached out to the state and asked for an extension. We were granted one, so we got it extended to April 1st. Still waiting on some data to come in from Howard and
I mean, I know we've asked this question before, but the haulers that don't fill this, like, don't return the data in a timely manner, is there any enforcement on that, or is
they
that?
they
Okay.
receive citation.
Okay.
Yeah. Even if they send it in late, they still get a citation for not sending it. So just wanted to let you know that I did ask for extension. It was granted for April 1st.
Any action needed on that?
No.
Thank you. Yeah, I feel like every year, we need an extension and it's always just, seems like it's a task to kind of cobble all that data together. All right, let's go to item number 2, 2026 retrack, annual funding request.
Yeah, so this ties in with the annual report. Without this, we would probably never get the annual report done. This is vital to the annual report. This is a system where everybody reports their data into it. We get it from this system to do the annual report. And it's coming up for, I think it's beginning of April or March for the next year for retracting.
Do you know how this compares to the rate from last year? I mean, not that it's.
As far as I know, it's the same.
It was at least over 10,000
Yeah.
last year.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds like it's pretty, crucial. I know we've supported it in the past. Looks like a really nice tool. Do you have a motion to, approve retract funding for, the next cycle?
I'll move.
You second.
Any further discussion, questions? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, retrack is approved. Thank you. Let's move to the funding request for scales on the payloaders.
Okay, so at our waste reduction center, which is located here, is a countywide service. People from all through the county come to get rid of their materials here. And it's a good thing to avoid illegal dumping within the county as well. So to make it more efficient and accurate for our loaders to get the right amount of tonnage into these trucks hauling to the landfill, we need scales on the payloaders. It's anywhere from 18 to 22 tons is an accurate load. And I'm just asking for funding for that. It's $16,000 per payloader, and there's 3 payloaders. And it would make it way more efficient. Our loads there,
48,000.
yeah, around 49,000, correct, total. And this will make it way more efficient, and we'll get better loads and more material out to the landfill.
So,
So
Okay, so-
WM has the contract to haul from the waste reduction center, so
Right.
I'm gonna abstain from any vote. But if you have any questions about it, I'm happy to answer, like the process, but.
Right.
so the ask is for 3, not 1?
Yes, for 3 for each payloader.
I bet not everybody knows what a payloader is.
Okay, so a payloader is a machine that picks up piles of debris and puts it into a trailer hauled to the landfill.
It's
Yeah,
a
so when you look outside.
large
there's-
piece of
yeah,
equipment with a large
Large
bucket out
bucket
front,
on it.
but there's nothing on the back. That would make it a backhoe.
it's- Yeah,
Just a payload.
the old incinerator building next door, you'll see there's a pile of mostly bulk items there.
Right,
It's on an elevated pad. There's a semi truck that pulls up next to the pad, and the top of the semi is flush with the pad itself. The payloader picks stuff up, pushes it, and puts it directly into the semi. The problem that they're running into is that especially with bulk material, it looks like you have a full load, but you have a mattress that's at a 45-degree angle with a bunch of empty space underneath it. And then you end up running, if you can only run 6 or 7 trucks a day because of the time it takes to load and get to the landfill and get back, if you're only putting 10 or 12 tons in instead of 18 or 20, then material starts to back up on the pad and you're just not getting like good, efficient movement to the landfill of that material.
Well, I guess question comes to mind, is there a role for waste management in this bill? Because obviously they don't want it to be overloaded because they would get fined if they got pulled over. From that standpoint, and if it's underfilled, it's not in their best interest to run that tractor trailer with, space still remaining. So it's not really for our benefit at all. It's all for waste management's benefit.
I mean, that's one way to look at it. I would say that the material that's sitting on the pad next to a residential area is for the benefit of getting that off of that pad, is to the benefit of the residents and benefit of the city to help them move.
Well, we've had
Yeah,
a
we-
massive amount of debris, I know on multiple occasions back there at any one time.
And we build this, to be entirely clear, we build a city by the ton. We do not build by the load. So we are not incentivized to run half-empty trucks or anything like that to try to, have more loads or more trucks go to the landfill. So that's not a consideration.
No,
Those pillars have the
right, they have clauses.
the cloth, thank you, couldn't remember the name. Is there a way, if mattresses are causing such a problem, or
That's just one
couches,
example.
whatnot,
Yeah,
put them off to the side and bring them to the landfill on some other equipment?
I mean, they do bring them to the side, but I mean, it's just, mattress is just one example.
Yeah.
I mean, you could have something. This just makes it more efficient to know we're getting the maximum amount of what we're putting into that truck and that load. And the quicker we get it off the pad, the quicker it is better for everybody in this area.
Okay. I
So
guess-
what's the total request for
Yeah.
funding?
$49,777.
Okay, so like 50,000.
So we have scales now, they're just old,
No, we don't have any at all
don't have any scales.
on the payloaders themselves.
And we just need
Yeah.
one
Per,
set of 3
right.
or,
Well, it's one per, we have 3 pieces of equipment, so one on each of them.
okay,
There's
So-
no in-ground scale anywhere on the property, correct?
In ground scale, yes, there is, but that's for our trucks. That's not, the semi truck's not going on that scale. It's not big enough.
The scale's gonna be on the actual loader,
Yes,
it's not something, not a scale that you roll on to weigh and then dump it in.
No.
It-
so when you pick up a bite and you pick it up, it'll tell you that it weighs 2 pounds or it weighs 560 pounds.
okay. Wes, any expectation on the life of these scales? Do they have general wear and tear? Do they get replaced after a certain amount of time?
I guess with technology, as technology goes, but as far as wear and tear, no, I wasn't told that. They said that they're durable and that this company's put them on hundreds of them and they have worked out well for them.
Long term?
I know those loaders take an awful beating. Where's the scale mounted on the loader?
That I'm not 100% sure on where it's mounted on it, but he said that what they do, it lasts a long time.
Yeah, they generally last, and we operate a lot of transfer stations and things like that. They generally last the life of at least the life of the equipment that it's on, but.
We've gone through an awful lot of loaders.
No, exactly. So I mean, if a loader lasts 5 or 6 years, it's gonna last 5 or 6 years. If it lasts 3 years, it might only last 3 years. You might be able to, put it on the new loader.
Right, and I did ask that, and it can be, if a loader goes down, an engine blows up or something, it can be transferred to another piece of equipment.
That's good to know.
Yes.
Proposal. Couple of questions. I've got questions. You had a good question I hadn't thought about. What about possibly tabling this and getting those questions answered before next meeting?
We could entertain a motion to table.
finish this motion.
It says 30 days for training.
That's just an estimate.
Yeah, I don't think that's.
We haven't got
I
to
don't
that.
have a motion yet.
Standard pricing, that's not that.
Okay.
Like, I don't
No,
think
he's-
it'd be like
he's
a
abstaining.
No interest on
20%
it.
more or anything. Yeah,
Okay.
because it's just a quote. not a-
Okay.
not a bill.
So do we have a
I'll make a
motion?
motion to table this.
Table this until the March meeting, pending additional information or feedback. Do you hear a second for tabling until the March meeting? The motion is not seconded. Do we hear any other motion regarding the request?
I have one more question to the staff. Okay, you're requesting these so we can get full loads to the landfill with what we have presently, correct? What are we doing today to make sure we got, we're just eyeballing it, or?
Yeah, there's no way of us to know how much exact weight we put in that truck right now. So you might have one senior loader that probably averages between 18 to 22, and a junior loader might average 12 to 14, 15.
Yeah, they get a report that shows when the truck gets to the landfill, how much it weighed
Mhm.
and what the truck number was and when it showed up. So you can sort of reverse engineer it to see,
Who loaded
hey, the
it?
one we loaded at 10 a.m. wasn't full.
Right.
But beyond that, there's not really any way to tell other than just what it visually looks like, from,
Right.
from the loader.
So by having these, you could almost, there's no guarantee you have full loads, but at least you at least have some confidence in that you're getting fuller loads.
Right.
Loads to the landfill.
Mhm.
And you're asking for 3 because we got 3 loaders.
Right.
Right?
Only one operates at one time. It's just that they break down so often.
Yes, so when the trailer comes in, 2 loaders are loading the trailer at one time.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we accept the proposal as written and that we so the proposal as written and allocate $50,000 to buy 3 of the scales for the payloaders. Fix that.
All right. So we have a motion to approve the funding request at the requested amount of less than $50,000.
49,777.
Very good.
All right. So we have a motion on the floor. Do we hear a second?
I second.
Any further discussion or questions? All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I'm hearing 2 ayes.
Aye.
Sorry, I don't think you heard. Did you say aye or nay, or did you?
Aye.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. 3.
Okay.
We have 1 abstention, 2 abstentions. Oh, we got a
No,
no?
the motion's on the table, so I'm gonna vote no.
Okay. All right, so 1, 2, 3 ayes,
Mhm.
4 ayes.
4 ayes.
Okay. Any noes?
No.
All right, and we can abstention as well.
Yes.
The motion does pass with majority of 4 of the 7.
Thank you.
Okay. On to the advisory committee report, cost of services study.
So cost of service study update, and then Morgan from Atellus is here for to do a presentation as well. Yep, you come on.
I know it's on there.
So are we trading places? So
Yeah, you can come up here.
Oh, look at that technology. Wow.
For the mines.
1,000.
Okay, good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to present the final findings for the solid waste cost service study. Tonight's briefing focuses on the analysis of the service options for unincorporated Jefferson County, including the cost modeling, key findings, and next steps. My goal is to walk you through what the analysis shows, clarify what it does and does not conclude, and support your discussion on possible next steps. So tonight is organized into three parts. First, I'll provide a brief refresher on the purpose of the study and approach, just to ground the discussion. Second, I'll walk through the analytical framework and the results, including the service area maps, the modeled cost results, and how those model costs compare to what households experience today. Finally, I'll summarize the key findings from the analysis and next step options. So the project purpose, the study was designed to evaluate whether the current solid waste system serving unincorporated Jefferson County should be maintained as is or potentially restructured. The analysis focused specifically on the unincorporated area using the Urban Services District as a benchmark for comparison. It excludes the home rule cities in accordance with your prior board direction. Its purpose is to evaluate options, test feasibility, and identify trade-offs so that any future decisions are informed by data rather than assumptions. To do that, the work followed a structured approach, which I will summarize next. So we benchmarked existing service levels and costs, evaluated operational conditions using Metro data, including 311 service requests, developed GIS-based hypothetical franchise zones for modeling, and constructed a 10-year cost of service model from the ground up. Throughout the process, the emphasis was on transparency, conservative assumptions, and producing a defensible planning document that could support future board and council discussions. That analysis starts with understanding the geographic context of service, which the next two maps will illustrate. So first, this map provides jurisdictional context for the analysis. It shows the Urban Services District, which is kind of that dark green. The home rule cities are in red, and the bright blue is the unincorporated area. The unincorporated area, as I said before, is a focus of the study. This context is important because the lack of unified service structure in the unincorporated area drives both cost variability and service inconsistency for residents. So with that in mind, the next map shows how we approach service area modeling. So there are 6 zones. These are the hypothetical ones that we developed solely for analytical purposes. The zones were designed to reflect reasonable service areas based on geography, density, road networks, and routing efficiency so that costs could be modeled in a realistic way. Using zones allows the analysis to test how operational conditions vary across the unincorporated area and how those differences influence cost outcomes without assuming a one-size-fits-all approach. With those zones in place, I'll turn to the model cost results and how to interpret them. So a little context. This slide is important for understanding why the modeled franchise rates may look different from what some households pay today. In the open market, pricing varies widely by both location and service bundle. Households often receive different levels of service at different prices, and there is limited transparency around what is included. Standardized service can improve equity and transparency, but not every household's bill would move in the same direction. Model franchise rates include the full cost of service, including capital replacement, long-term investment, and program oversight, which are not always reflected in current market pricing. Additionally, differences across zones are driven by real documented cost factors like density, routing efficiency, and distance, rather than arbitrary pricing assumptions. So what residents are paying today? Many unincorporated residents currently pay 45 to 55 per month to private haulers for full service, trash recycling, yard waste, and bulky item access. For those households, the modeled franchise rates, generally in the 40s to low 50s, would be comparable or potentially lower while providing more consistent and accountable service. Some residents, however, pay as little as 25 per month today because they receive trash only or limited service. Under the franchise system, those households would receive recycling, yard waste, and bulky item collection as part of the standard package. For them, the change represents more service, not necessarily a lower bill. This is a policy trade-off. The franchise system is designed to ensure universal access and equity rather than allowing some households to opt out of basic services. From a comparison basis, it's made on a recurring monthly cost basis. It does not compare modeled franchise rates to one-time startup charges, such as cart delivery or account setup fees, which we saw upwards of $70 to $80. That may appear in private hauler due today totals, where private quotes include recurring surcharges in addition to base service rates. Those recurring charges are treated as part of the monthly cost for comparison purposes. Additionally, the study does not estimate how many individual households would pay more or less than today, because that would require comparing modeled zone rates to each household's private bill. So instead, it shows that full service franchise rates fall within the same general range that many residents already pay for comparable service under the open market. So I realize this is kind of a lot to show you guys right now, but the model franchise rates shown in this study reflect the full cost of service, including the operations, capital replacement, and program oversight. The differences across the zones in the model are driven by documented operational factors, as I noted previously, such as density, routing efficiency, and distance, not arbitrary pricing assumptions. So as you can see with zone 5 and 6, particularly, the rates are much higher, mainly because they're much more rural and much more spaced out. They also have less total units, but we tried to make it as equal, as we could for comparable purposes. So, key findings. This slide reflects what the analysis shows. First, under the existing open market system, household costs, service levels, and access vary widely across the unincorporated area. Some households lack recycling or yard waste service entirely, and pricing differs materially by location. Second, the current governance structure limits Metro's ability to enforce service standards, response times, or pricing stability. We found that multiple haulers often operate on the same streets, which reduces efficiency without improving outcomes. Third, as shown in previous slides, when we modeled a franchise scenario, rates were generally comparable to, and in some cases lower than, prevailing market prices, with improved predictability, particularly in lower density areas. Finally, route consolidation produces measurable system benefits, including fewer trucks, reduced emissions, and less roadway wear, and stronger support for recycling and yard waste diversion. Recommended pathway. So our recommended pathway is beginning with education and stakeholder engagement before proceeding to any final policy decisions. Then if you choose to move forward, we recommend a phased pilot first approach, which at that point you wouldn't be rolling out all the zones. It would be pick one, see how well it works, and decide where to go from there. Importantly, also the policy direction, program design, procurement, and implementation are treated as separate steps, each with its own decision point. This reduces implementation risk and allows Metro to make policy choices before committing to a procurement model. So next steps for consideration. We provided the final report. I'm not sure that anyone has had the chance to review it. It's over 100 pages and over 50-something tables. I realize it's a substantial amount of information, but a substantial amount of work went into this over the past year and a half. So I would say the next is to potentially review that and see what you guys would come back with maybe at the next meeting as to how you would recommend moving forward.
Can I ask a couple of questions just from the phrasing on something? It said there was limited transparency on some, like, what do you mean by limited transparency? I know that was back on like slide 2, but it said,
I wrote it down also.
yeah, I just didn't know what that meant. So it was basically, it was regarding private sector service and saying there was
Yeah, I would
limited
imagine-
transparency.
Let me go back to slide 2.
I don't know if that was in regard to services offered or,
I'm thinking it's probably the pricing specifically.
It said different service levels at different prices with limited transparency.
Right, so, well, I would say exactly that. So some haulers provide, I would say, a transparent, pricing. So it'll say, here's the base price, they'll include what the environmental surcharge is, or,
Okay.
you know, anything additional like that. Some others don't provide anything like
okay, you
that.
mean like the invoicing. that
Right,
just gave us.
so that would too, in order to get information like that, we would actually have to see individual bills or get that information from hauler.
And then one other question, then I'm sorry, I'll stop asking, is I know it said twice that access to service varies widely and recycling and yard waste are not universally available.
Correct.
So by ordinance, both of those services have to be offered to every home in the city.
Right, we understand that.
So how is access, but
So,
when you say it's not being offered, what are you basing that off of?
so we did a number of, cold calling services as well as the haulers that provided access online where you could just go in and put your service address
Okay.
in, get the price for something like that. It varied as to what they offered in certain areas. Pricing was different. What they offered
Well,
was
pricing is different than not
normal.
accessible, but
recycling and yard waste wasn't always offered as an option.
I mean, when you all did that, do you all have any documentation of like
We
what? Okay. I'd want to see that as a board. I mean, it probably wouldn't be me looking at it because I've worked for WM, but if there are haulers that are not offering services that they're required to offer, that's its own issue. But I think I would say the board would want to be made aware of that.
Were you
You
finished?
want me to
Mark?
go back to the end or?
Yeah, please continue.
Okay. Actually, that was the last of it.
Okay,
So
I feel
if
better.
anyone-
Sorry, I thought that was. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I thought that was.
Okay, go back.
Sorry.
Go back to.
Go back to this.
Yes,
Okay.
okay. Begin with education. Mhm. I guess to be clear, we can't do anything. We can make recommendations to Metro Council. Metro
Yeah.
Council. I guess to be clear, we can't do anything to make recommendations. Metro Council would have to actually do the policy direction and procurement. That was my question. Correct, or not correct?
Yeah, but there are other policy issues, as I mentioned at a previous meeting, that we can work on ourselves, that Metro Council, they probably wouldn't care less. But you know, we've got a lot of things to work out, policy wise, before we probably want to take it to council.
I think we're also deciding on the board's findings or position on the report
For
itself.
Right, yes, but we're not even there yet.
Right.
Yeah, I just wanted clarification on what that would look like. Yeah, we're not even there at the report yet. Yeah, okay.
So a couple things that, and these are going to be slightly pointed questions. You said that the home rule cities were excluded and it focused on transparency. One thing I think in the report, at least that I saw, that there were statements made based on home rule cities and their service levels, their costs. So I would find that not consistent with the study. And then as far as focusing on transparency, the home rule cities, many reported that they found the procurement, which was the reason for us voting to exclude, the bulk of the information collected from home rule cities, that they found the process to be unclear, and some even said that they felt like it was sneaky. So that would be feedback that I would give on the term transparency. I don't think that they felt that it was transparent in the collection of the data.
You're talking about the public records request?
Yes. Well, yeah, the public records request, but even the initial requests, the individuals that I spoke with said that they or their offices did not feel like that was approached very clearly or transparently. And so I'm just sharing that with you, that even that initial one was not really understood, like what the nature was, or that wasn't really a legal request. So for future studies that you conduct, just especially in the interest of transparency, I would make sure that the way that you phrase that or message that to different parties is very, very clear, that it's, an optional request, that that basically the method of data collection will remain like a high perceived integrity level. So I'm just reporting back feedback that I've received to you regarding the method of collection. I made some other notes, but I think most of that was asked.
I have one question about the zones. You said you broke them up by zip codes, or not by zip codes, by
No.
households, addresses or whatever?
Yeah, so there were a number of things that went into determining the zones. So it was density,
Okay.
road networks, routing efficiency, and geography. So speaking to I would say 5 and 6, where it's less dense, more spread out.
Which ones are 5 and 6, Morgan?
Red and
let's
dark
see.
red?
Yeah, it would be the red and that.
Oh, up at the top.
Yeah, very top.
Or I would.
Oh, up there.
No, the dark red, sorry, we should have used better colors.
Yeah, Simpsonville to Crestwood, then you.
Right, yeah, then that kind of grayish green, that would be, I think, 6. I can take you back to that table to kind of see. So we have total units, occupancy, that we double checked with USPS, occupied unit count, which much less than zone 5 and 6 due to the rural nature of the houses.
So if I may, it looks like the higher the number of units, the lower the 10-year average number would be.
Right. Density.
So it's just,
Density,
yeah, density
Yeah.
and economies of scale.
It's going to stay, yeah. Well, more addresses, less room.
I know you mentioned the 10-year average in there, you talk about it, but can you just, or, for everybody else's benefit, what that means?
Okay, so we took year 1, we have this kind of laid out in more detail in the report, year 1 through year 10. What I would say, modeled cost would be for each of the zones based on all of this information, inflation, et cetera. Also including any capital investment from fleet acquisition, carts, et cetera. And then we just for the slide purposes, to showing year one, what it would be, and then kind of the 10-year average, to show kind of where it would go over time.
I have a question, and I apologize if I missed this in the report or I'm forgetting it, but I'm curious if a zone model like this has been tried or if it has been working in other places across the country, especially anywhere maybe close. And if there was any like comparison done there. Like, do we have any success stories to look at or to learn from?
So close by, I'm not aware of, say at least this many zones being implemented, but franchise zoning does happen all over the country, coming from California specifically. Some it made sense to do just exclusive zones, for example, one single hauler and operating an entire city. That was originally taken out of what we even considered in this plan. I would say there's also numerous jurisdictions that have done less zones. They also have, I would say, less rural housing, the way that things are structured there. So it made sense to really just kind of split them up into 3 zones instead, based on the size and everything else of the city. But yes, it definitely happens. A lot of other places we can get back to you with specific comparisons.
So you'd said most residents pay $45 to $55 a month currently, which I would take to mean some pay more, some pay less. And when I'm looking at the year one estimate for the zoning approach, I'm kind of seeing 45 to 55, some pay more, some pay less. So is that pretty consistent with how people are paying now?
Yes.
Thank you.
You're looking at us. Yeah.
Go ahead. Yes. We're not at public comment yet, but we can, okay. Yeah, let's wait until the board gets their questions and then we'll move to public comment. Thank you.
Just an aside, was the number of zones done to equate to the number of vendors that currently provide the service?
See, this was very early on in the study, not specifically. At the time, it just made sense to split it up this way with the units and geography, you know, the density of the housing and everything else. I would say like to make it as even as possible. If this was going to turn into single hauler per zone, what that would look like for efficiency's sake.
So one of my questions, you had the recommended pathway, but then, and I apologize, I haven't had a chance to read the entire study. But section 5.1 is policy options and decision pathways, and it provides 5 different options. One of which is immediate franchising, one is piloting, one is strengthening the existing open market system, one is HOA and neighborhood contract alignment. But it seems like there are 5 options to choose from that you all recommend. Does it seem, but then you said you had one recommended pathway.
So based on the comments from, I would say, I think it was the first draft, there were, I would say, some things that inspired potentially other avenues.
Okay.
So particularly for this presentation, I focused on what specifically we were asked to do to provide, well, I would say not to provide you guys with too much information. You feel like it's somewhat overwhelming, considering especially that you haven't read all of the study.
Yeah.
So in order to provide you guys what the potential other avenues would be if you decided to not specifically go with 6 zones, single hauler per zone, or different options there.
Oh, so what you're saying is like in 5.1, you're saying option A is the preferred option and options B through E are alternatives to
right?
Rathkellis's preferred option.
Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments from the board?
Can you go to the zone map just one more time? I'm a visual dot guy. I'm sorry.
This one or the other?
This is fine.
Okay.
This is fine. I guess I'm just having trouble understanding how that much unincorporated area is inside the watershed.
Yeah, it is. That's all county line. Just shows that there's an awful lot of forested areas out there.
Yeah. I'm talking inside the water.
Inside the water.
Inside the watershed is an unincorporated area. I just didn't think there was that much in there.
Yeah, there's really only that little bit just north of Shively.
North of Shiloh, and you got some north,
Yeah, northeast
Northeast
like
of
Indian
Indian
Hills.
Hills.
Yeah.
yeah. Interesting.
I'm surprised that anything's unincorporated.
Yeah, I think it's
Around
probably,
Indian
there's so many home rule cities that I'm sure they just existed, outside of metro or the old city.
The old city, a little, yeah.
Mhm.
They just forgot to incorporate.
Just
There's a one street they missed.
It's just, I always thought that the urban service district was pretty much within the Waterson, and that's not the case at all.
Case, no.
And it's really bizarre urban service district.
Yeah.
Could you go back to the next map too? We're just looking at that without knowing the numbers in front of me and whatnot. I can visually see three areas if you wanted to make it instead of 6. Now, they may be too big. I've never been a businessman, so I don't know what can be done in 1 day or 5 days or whatever from a garbage collection standpoint, but
But 3 areas, districts, or whatever, you guarantee that you cut all but 3 out of the market, maybe more than that.
well, there's also, never been a businessman, but there's always possibilities that certain existing vendors could become subcontractors, doing the recycling for some other vendor, as an example. If that decision was made.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen that
Recycling
happen anywhere
cost-
just because of the fact that if you're bidding for I know I'm not saying it can't, but if you're bidding for service somewhere and you're being awarded because you are the lowest best bid, having a subcontractor and then having to pay someone else to do it means that you're eliminating the benefit of you having the contract in the first place.
And
I mean,
recycling is not typically a super profitable venture. So if they're just contracting for recycling, then you would imagine that they would have to make that higher than if it was like a included service, like included in
And
bundle.
I'm not saying that invalidates 3 versus 6, just that I wouldn't
No,
expect. anybody to
I understand. I understand completely. But of course, one vendor could win all 6.
Yeah, if you bid them all individually, because
Zones, yeah.
if you don't award to the lowest bidder or the lowest best bidder, then
Lowest best bidder.
how do you guarantee that you're getting?
Right.
There's no way to avoid one company winning all 6 unless, you do something beyond price or beyond best bid. And then I don't know how, as a municipality, how you would do that legally.
Yeah.
That's beyond
Dicey.
our reach.
No, exactly. Yeah, I just mean in terms of like open bidding laws. I don't know how you would do that.
Any further questions from the board? All right, we'll move to the public comment section, comments from the public and NWRA.
What do you want me to, just,
So, first off, I think the study was well done. And it went into a lot of details and did a lot of great things, but I do have some concerns and, we started off with a good foundation with the way it's done. But the cost assumptions here that's on for each zone is too high. And I'm gonna give you a couple of reasons why it is. Number one, it assumes all brand new equipment is purchased for this. That's not a realistic assumption in the fact that if we were to bid this out, would you expect that all new equipment would be purchased? Or would the bidder, who would be the haulers that we already have, almost certainly already have equipment now that is servicing all these households? So that significantly increases the cost of those numbers. I would say that it's gonna drop these prices, and I've already done this, so I know what I think it is. Just in having a couple of different scenarios for not having to buy new garbage trucks, not having to buy new recycling trucks, maybe buying yard waste trucks. You still have to buy carts, to one that all the fleets are already in place. So you could drop that price anywhere from 13 to 20% from those prices,
This fella doesn't know who you are.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. My name is Pete Flood, former executive director of the Waste Management District. Was deeply involved in the work on the 5-year plan that put this in motion, and also the bidding of this contract to do the work, and the detailed work as far as the working group that included myself, private haulers, home rule city people, and metro government people. So I'm neck deep into this study. So I didn't hear what you said.
So that's why you don't sound like the general public.
Okay. So I would think that that'd be something that is important. It's not a realistic number. The second part that I believe that it's not a realistic number is because it does not take into account competitive bidding. Am I correct or am I wrong?
Correct.
Competitive bidding is a major number that is very difficult to tie down. Very difficult because the board decided to not use contract data. There are other things that you could do. In my mind, you can go back to the 2018 study that did use contract data, and look at that across I guess not interest, but the escalating cost over the past year since that study. And you can get a pretty good idea of what those are. I will say that that 2018 study showed almost over a 50% reduction between contracted costs and the subscription area cost. So this study said that there is likely between 15 and 25% of savings that can come from competitive bidding, and some other little things. So I think that it's important to consider that. When I applied these things, and I used 2 different scenarios, you're talking about reductions that get, let's see. If you use the 25% bidding and you use those 2 different scenarios where you don't have all brand new equipment, you're talking about zone 1 rate of about $29.65, zone 2, $27.45, zone 3, $26.09, zone 4, $27.01, zone 5, $40.17, and zone 6, $32.20. So what I'm trying to say is that the study did they did this, but they didn't, they gave the upper crust scenario. I think it's not a good idea to put out a study that is upper crust Because people are gonna look at the numbers in there and say, oh, man, there's no way. But it's not realistic numbers. I think we have to go back and we need to look at that. I'm not sure how we got off of that, but I mean, I was part of it. I think it's a little bit much, and I'm willing to share this stuff with anybody that's there. So I think the study's too important to let the upper crust numbers define the conversation. We need realistic cost scenarios so residents, council, the 109 board can make decisions based on what the system may actually cost, not what it might cost under the most extreme considerations. So I know that you guys have not been able to read this thing. I think that it did a large number of things right, but in the end, I think where it's missing is probably the most important part, is it's not taking those considerations in. Would we be doing our diligence if we allowed this to go out with all brand new equipment in the costing? I don't think that there's any way possible that we would be doing our due diligence. So we're not quite there in my mind on what we did. And I'll be honest with you, the other day I was at the advisory committee meeting. I put in suggestions and recommendations. I think Sarah Lynn also did. And it was going to get looked at. But I think that when I finally got the final product, I think it just stuck out to me that we're not being totally truthful, not saying truthful is the right word. We're not being realistic in what these costs could be. And I think that it's important for us to go back and do this. It can be presented as a upper crust scenario, a mid-level scenario, and a best case scenario to give people that opportunity to see what the differences are and explain the differences in those. If we don't, we're not gonna get anywhere. The other part of this is it assumes a full suite of services that's like in the urban services district. Urban services district residents get extremely good services, level of services is what I'm saying. Garbage, yard waste, every other week recycling, bulky waste up to 4 items every week with an appointment. They get a lot for that. So to say that you can supply that same level of services in the outermost region is probably not going to be reasonable. I think that our goal should be to try to get people at or below or near what people are paying now for regular garbage service. And if we can't do that, then you start dropping things until you can get people close to that. You know, I'm all for diversion. I think it's important. I think that's another mission of the Waste Management District. As an efficient collection system, cost-effective collection system, these are in our mission statement. So we should have a goal to get people the most services that divert the most material at the lowest cost. And we'll have to make decisions because it won't be that way all across. It can't be. Y'all seen the density in 5 and 6 is really spread out, which makes the cost go higher. It's a fact. So I would just ask the board to give a little bit more time and to hear and see some of the information that I've created, and potentially, I'm not asking for people to trust what I say. I'm asking for it to go to Raf Tellis to verify what I'm trying to say and to look at it. So that is my input. I think that as it sits right now, we're not telling the whole story. And I think that this thing is too important not to try to tell that full story.
Chuck, you mind if I ask you a question?
I'm not sure that, to procedure, if we're able to do that.
I think this is just a comment period.
Yeah, I think we should probably move to additional comments.
Third grade teacher told me to stand up when I talk to people.
I'm sorry, I didn't do that.
Now, I want her to know I was listening. One first comment is a friendly amendment to what Pete said. That one chart that had the 10-year average in the right column. I'm concerned that that's apples versus oranges. The idea that we said the average payment now is how much? That there was.
45 to 55.
Yeah. Isn't it that's a current price, and what we have in that last column is a 10-year average, which I'm guessing reflects about 5 years of inflation, does it not? So I think we should be very mindful. That's another reason why those numbers are misleading. If we were gonna present that as what we're talking about, then we would have to also take the current prices and inflate them to match the account for inflation. So it's actually even closer. The other thing I want to say, I actually have a list. We have lots of linear infrastructure. We have water lines, sewer lines, telephone lines, cable lines, gas lines, garbage pickup. These are all linear infrastructure. This is the only one where we allow redundancy. We don't allow two companies to put power lines up. We don't allow two companies to lay gas lines, et cetera, because it would be ridiculously expensive. That's what we're doing on trash. And so I think it should be fairly intuitive that this is a smart idea. I don't want to see a monopoly. I don't even want to see an oligopoly. So I hope we can find a legal way that if we do this, which I hope we will, that we do this such that a single company can't win more than two of the zones, maybe even one of the zones. Because if we don't preserve competition, things aren't going to go as well. I also think it would be lovely if we could attempt to quantify how much are we spending picking up junk that somebody dumped because they don't have trash collection or don't have bulk waste collection, et cetera. Because in my life experience, that's a big expensive problem. What else? I want to say recycling, the idea that it needs to be profitable doesn't make sense when we're talking environmental protection, public health, et cetera. Nobody expects sewage to make a profit, but we all understand it's a good thing for society. It works that way for recycling and yard waste too. And just to connect those dots, too many times I see people stuffing yard waste into catch basins, and I've seen it clog the sewer, and it wasn't pretty where the sewage ended up. And our friends at now Javaden, that used to be called D.D. Williamson, one time somebody did that. D.D. Williamson dumped acid into the sewer, which they shouldn't have done, but they did, and it killed the fish from Clifton all the way to the Ohio River. So keeping yard waste out of the sewer is a really good idea. The last thing I want to say, checking my list, is that this is kind of like healthcare. If you have insurance, you pay X. If you don't have insurance, you're going to pay more money. And it's the same here. If you've got somebody advocating and organizing and regulating the provision of the service, you're going to get a fairer deal than if it's just the Wild West, which is what essentially it is now. Thank you.
Additional public comment? Sweet.
Good evening. My name is Robert Lee. I am a service provider, a residential service in the Jefferson County community, family-run business, born and raised in Louisville, and been in the refuse business, the solid waste business for about 50 years, most of it in this area. Today, though, I am representing the National Waste and Recycling Association, the Kentucky chapter of this association. I am the chapter chair. and I'm also on the board of trustees for the national organization. We have worked on, and worked with Ref Tillis and with the county for 70 years. All of my 50 years I've worked with the county in regards to solid waste business. Not only in my family business, but also with other entities that were in the Louisville market. Very familiar with it all. So, I talk from experience, but I also talk from a deep concern of not only where we are going with the service providers, but also with individuals as myself that I'm not a national company. I am a family business that runs trucks and recycling in the Louisville market. And I am truly concerned about my future and my 150 employees that I have that works for me as a comment. But what we have done as far as the NWRA, National Waste and Recycling Association, is conglomerately put information together, looked at what we are thinking if the end result of what Ref Tillis has decided, and have some comments that I wish to share with you, please. To begin, Jefferson County's waste system is not broken. Jefferson County does not have a waste crisis. It does not have an environmental emergency. It does not have a service failure. What it has is a decades-long, privately financed, competitively operated waste and recycling system that works. For more than 80 years, that's a real number. For more than 80 years, private haulers have safely and reliably served residents, including the uninterrupted service during the COVID-19 pandemic, which we are very proud of. The county maintains over 40 years of landfill space, strong recycling infrastructure, and competitive pricing driven by open market competition. Residents are satisfied with their service and support maintaining the ability to choose their provider. There is no operational failures that justifies dismantling the system. Yet the Ref Tillis cost of service study reflects a clear policy objective that extends beyond neutral evaluation. The initial draft explicitly stated that the purpose of the study was to evaluate transitioning the county to a structured single hauler franchise collection system. That language revealed a predetermined outcome rather than an objective assessment. Although revised wording attempts to soften that framing, the study continues to focus on replacing the current open market structure with an exclusive franchise model. More troubling, this effort goes beyond the scope of the state's 5-year solid waste management plan, which identifies open market competitions as a strength. The study appears to have been initiated by federal government without initial mandate from the 109 board. A structural shift of this magnitude should originate from the governing authority charged with oversight, not be in advance administratively and then presented as a policy conclusion. Jefferson County's waste infrastructure, landfills, recycling centers, and transfer stations was developed and capitalized by the private sector. It is already built, highly functional, and serving residential efficiently. A franchise model would not create new infrastructure or solve a demonstrated problem. It would centralize control, reduce competition, and expose residents to long-term cost escalations once market pressure is removed. The burden of proof lies with those proposed changes. To date, there has been no demonstrated environmental benefits, no measurable service improvements, and no verified cost savings that justifies dismantling a functional open market system. But before considering the transition to a franchise collection system, The Louisville 109 board should require a truly independent and neutral cost analysis, a complete reconciliation of all residential units, including HOAs, homeowners associations, and municipalities. Clear evidence of measured public benefit and confirmation of proper authorization in board directive. Absent those safeguards, this proposal is not reform. It is an unnecessary and potentially costly restructuring of a system that is already working for Jefferson County residents. Conclusion, NWA, National Waste and Recycling Association Kentucky chapter members respectfully reminds the 109 board that we are longstanding partners in this system and have always stood ready to work collaboratively in support of reliable service, responsible stewardship, and policies that benefit Jefferson County residents. Thank you.
Just a second. Do we have anyone who hasn't spoken yet that would like to share comment? Mr. Burrow?
Mr. Chairman, just very quickly, I believe it's this slide that shows 108,699 units available for service. Just as an example, that number we know is inaccurate and it's misleading because that number does not include the contracted homeowners associations in Jefferson County. But it's shown as if it's available households for franchising. And if you look at it, I would say it's at least 20% off, if not closer to 25 or 30 of the 108,000. So there's so much more involved here than what this study shows us to even begin to make a decision. Obviously, I agree that the private sector has done a wonderful job competing and maintaining low rates. But in my 30 to 35 years in the waste industry, you have to recognize the fact that your cost is driven by density of customers per mile. Whether you have to buy new equipment to start a contract or to maintain a contract and finish a contract, you have to price it as such where you need that equipment, you have to include that cost. So if you want to price it up front, that's fine. But you have to have that expense to be able to service the customer. And then for every customer more you service per mile, you drive your cost down because your expense for running the truck remains fairly constant on a per mile basis. When you get into if I pick the zones, the valley stations of the world, yes, you're going to have a lower unit per mile than what you have in St. Matthews. And you will see a difference in price. The only other thing I have to say is, in all my years of serving on the advisory committee, which is very close to 30 years now, our main challenge has been, how do we reduce or increase, if I may, diversion from landfill? We've never focused on price because competitive bidding has always controlled the price growth. Our goal was to avoid and extend the life of our landfills. We're totally turning away from that goal now. And we're looking to control the price of services, which I feel was not our calling. I think the competitive market will control the pricing. Obviously, it cannot be compared with the urban services district. Because if you look at the urban services district, the density there is the highest of any area within Jefferson County. So they should have the lowest price. And the urban services district is not required to show a profit for its shareholders. So there's a lot of variables that are yet to be considered and understood before any conclusion is made with regard to this plan. I will say that we did have, and I do want to report, we did have a vote from the advisory committee. Ms. Greenberg motioned to advance the cost of services study to the 109 board for further consideration. And the motion was amended by Ms. Cunningham to state that the report, including anticipated changes due Friday, would be forwarded to the 109 board for further consideration. The motion was seconded. The motion passed with a split vote of 6-1 from the advisory committee. Your challenge is now to take the information as provided, try to find the truth, try to find the hope, and try to find fallacies that are included in the study.
Thank you, Mr. Burrow. Any additional comment? Is that a hand? Okay.
I would just like to make some very brief comments. I'm also on the advisory committee. And to the goal of increasing diversion, the status quo, if we leave the system operating as is, there's no compelling urge to do that. I mean, an individual consumer can only make one contract with the provider. They can choose a provider, but they only have so much leverage. The economy of scale that the franchise model could offer could seriously increase diversion because more services could be available at essentially the same costs. I think it would also be wise to consider the cost of multiple haulers operating on the same roads. That's, increased truck pollution, increased emissions, increased noise, increased road wear and tear. By consolidating to a franchise model where this zone is primarily served just by one hauler, you could, cut the truck traffic down in half or by, a third or a quarter, depending on how many haulers are currently servicing an area. So I do think we're not committing the whole thing. We know that the estimates in the survey are just that, estimates, and we could do another study and have different estimates. I think the proof is in the pudding. When you put it out for an RFP, we'll see how the actual bidders bid. And I think that's where your competitive market advantage is that they know they're bidding against each other. And so they're going to bid to the lowest possible rate where they think they can win it and still make a profit. So I think in conclusion, starting with a pilot project would be a wise route to go. And if it didn't make sense, then it doesn't make sense. At least we tried, but not trying anything doesn't change anything. That's my remarks.
Well, I'm gonna, if there's no new individuals giving comment, then I would circle back to Mr. Flood.
Thank you.
Thank you. Several things. Number one, I think that the question about what are other communities doing with franchising, what has happened in other locations. I don't think you have to look too far because franchising is one word. Also, competitive bidding is another word, contracting. Oldham County just completed a franchise. Their franchise rate is just over $26 a month for trash and recycling. The second part of that is density. density plays a massive role in the cost, right? Oldham County's density is, I think it's like 150 households per square mile. Whereas even the lowest density places in Jefferson County are sitting up at 300 to 500 households per square mile. So almost double the density. In franchising in Oldham County, they're getting trash and recycling for pretty close to the same price as people in subscription areas are getting just trash now in Jefferson County, with basically way less density. If that should tell you that franchising is beneficial, I think that should tell you that that's a real world example that's right here next to us that we can use as further evidence of that. You know, and I know a lot, we talked a whole lot about choice, and I get that. And there are 82 small cities. There are numerous homeowners associations in Jefferson County that have decided that contracting makes sense to them. And as evidenced in the 2018 study, it has done them well. They're getting much better services at a less cost than people are paying for basic trash service in the other parts of the county. So it's another example that you can look at locally here that shows that contracting, franchising, however you want to call it, could work for people in these subscription areas. Yes, there's a lot that needs to be worked out. Homeowners associations, yes. That's one of those. I would like to see a density map of Jefferson County that shows all the different households, because when I looked it up, and it's very difficult for me to do because I don't have the GIS access that I used to, but you can look at a place like Pleasure Ridge Park, Fern Creek, it's some of those areas. That's, I think, zone 2 or 3, I can't remember, Newburgh. And you can see that the density is probably on par with most of the home rule cities that have contract. So we can't use density as a sole reason. I think the model that's used by Raftellus is genius. They described it to us as a group, and it does a lot of good things. It needs to be remodeled. Let me see. Another fact here that I think is important, from my experience as an enforcement person with the Waste District and Metro government, the fact that all services are not being provided or offered is a major issue. We have been told by many of people calling in and saying, man, you know, they don't offer it. They don't offer it here. And lots of times you can blow that off as somebody not getting the right information, talking to the wrong person or whatever. But I don't know what percentage of the contracts that were received or what parts, areas of town, but it's all subscription area. And if there's a lot of people getting, you know, they can't even get recycling services because it's not offered. I mean, I know we don't have we have a pretty good functioning system for what we have. It's competitively bid. People can go out and get their best price. It's open market, but it's not that's the problem. It's the overlapping services. That's the problem. All the service providers would likely be the same. So I think that there's a lot of things here. While the system's not totally broken, there are some concerns about the system and that it's not being applied evenly. I think is a finding by Raftellus that shouldn't be skipped over. So you know, the number one people that we're supposed to look to is the people of Jefferson County, all of Jefferson County. We want competition. I am not supporting, nor would I support a single collection system. Oldham County does it, other counties do it. I don't think that that's in our best interest. It's got to be competitive, and I think that there's probably ways that you can do it by, certain things, and I think that that needs to be investigated. I don't have anything against the Holland community because I think that they've done a fantastic job. I just think that we need to improve the system, not the efficiency of the haulers. They're as efficient as we need to get us. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, comment that I was going to make earlier is a couple things. The rates for services can be driven by host agreements. In certain areas, you would need to look into the host agreements that are in place for Trumbull County with regard to residential cost of services going into that landfill. Number two, the challenge that we face here, the haulers are required to provide services. If that's not the case, if that's not happening, that needs to be addressed. The customers are not required to utilize the services. If you put in franchise areas, you're going to increase the overhead costs because you're going to have to manage those franchises, and that's going to come at a fee. If our goal is to pick up as much waste and divert it from the landfill as possible by doing exactly what the haulers are supposedly licensed to do, would be to pick up the 4 categories of services. Just mandate it that all houses contract for that service. If we mandate that everybody has recycling, yard waste, waste collection, and bulk items, and look at a bundled price for those services, there's no additional overhead required for managing those contracts. There's no 15% franchise fee or 20% franchise fee or 5% franchise fee. There's no required additional structure involved. It gets us to our goal of diversion, and it maintains competition. It's just there's so many things to think about. But the biggest item that troubles me is we've talked about this slide, 108,699 units available in unincorporated area. We've looked at this slide so many times in the advisory committee. And what troubles me is the slide is wrong. We know it's wrong. We know it's wrong by a percentage. And no one's been able to take the time or the effort to find out what percentage that is. Because no HOAs are included in that number. And those HOAs are protected by their contracts as much as the home rule cities are protected by their contracts.
HOAs are included.
HOA count.
The number is included.
Yeah, I think that's what he's saying, is that if you've got a 1,200 home HOA that's included in that 108,000 number, then you would have 106,800 available for franchising.
And people that have that information also are the haulers. So in order for us to get that.
Right, and we cannot provide that. I mean, it has to come from the HOA, so that's the issue.
There has been a lot of work done on that. And it's not to there. I think that's another area that we need to improve before we get to what we're going to.
I want to make another analogy that, and Mr. Gibson can probably tell me from experience about this too. There used to be whole sections of that maps that didn't have sewers. People were on septic tanks or temporary wastewater treatment plants. And the water that was flowing in creeks along playgrounds and people's yards had more poop in it than we were allowed to discharge from the sewage treatment plant. And we needed to fix that, and so we did. First thing we did was create a concept plan for a watershed, where we said, we've got approximately this many houses and approximately this percentage is multifamily and this is single, and we think the sewage would amount to be this much, and here's where we could take it to treat it. And the board approved it, and then we took the next step and figured out, well, where would you run the lines and who's getting basement service and who doesn't need it and all this stuff. So I think it's really important to focus on. This study is framing up options, and to accept it doesn't change anything in the world, but allow us to then start to refine the idea to see if it's something you want to adopt. This is not cutting anybody's arm off.
All right, let's go ahead and close public comment section or session. I would entertain a motion to table the cost of services study discussion until our March meeting.
I move.
Do we hear a second? No. Okay.
I mean, I would second to table it. So, I mean, we only got the final report on Monday.
March is too soon.
Well, I think table it for this.
I'm thinking of April.
How about if we just take the date off, just table
Okay.
You can't do that.
We need a date on there.
April.
Okay. Would you accept, or, well, I think you have to make the request for amending the motion.
I make a motion that we table the general discussion on this cost of service study until our April meeting. With the caveat of being a discussion, not a determination.
Motion on the floor.
I'll second that.
Second, any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Motion passes. I know we are over time right now. Anyone wishing to be heard on items not pertaining to the agenda? All right, we'll move to announcements. You want to jump back in here?
It's just announcements. We've got the repair fair at Portland Community Center, March 7th. It is 2026, 1 to 4 p.m.
Thank you. Next advisory committee meeting is March 18th from 4:30 to 6, and our next 109 board meeting will be in this location, March 25th at 5:30. Can we hear a motion to adjourn? A second?
Second.
All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
It's adjourned. Thank you.
Hey, this is all the counts. It's going 9 minutes over. You're doing well. Yeah, you're making, you're still, on average.
Yeah. Without average. Thank you.